welcome to the Z-Files from WAAZ, WJSB on a Saturday morning, 7:06, our regular time now for going on 6 years, I just realized when I looked back in my files when I first began doing these. And I'm Cal Zethmeyer, host for WAAZ, WJSB, and with us is Miss Melissa Simpson, who works with KW Gulf Coast. Keller Williams. She's in the real estate business, but she's really in the promoting the community where she lives business as well. Melissa, welcome back to the Z-Files.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You've got some interesting things sitting here in front of you, so we're going to talk about this stuff first, because there's an event coming to Crestview that has never, ever happened in Crestview. And I doubt it ever could have. I know we've had some cold time, but I don't think we've ever had a time when it rained and snowed and melted and froze. I keep telling people these hands right here have not had a snow shovel in them since March 1956, my senior year of high school. We had a snow, and I grew up, and I was showing you out in the Chicago West Farm Country, but we had a snowstorm that melted and then froze. And we ice skated down that highway to go to school. But we're going to have ice skating, that's my point of this story, ice skating in Crestview, Florida at the Old Spanish Trail Park in February, and kind of a tobogganing thing as well. So, Melissa, tell us exactly, because you've been involved in helping this, and I guess actually you came over to Milton. I was doing an interview with the people over there handling the management of the famous Imogene Theater, and now you've got Kyle and them bringing an event to Crestview. So give us the story of how this happened and what's it all about and what do these things got to do with it?
Well, so the CRA is officially throwing this event, and obviously the funds that are raised will go back into the Community Redevelopment Agency, which is fantastic. We've got Kyle Werner with RE Development, who's going to be overseeing the whole thing, which is fantastic because now we don't need 100 volunteers that we have to go scout for. The event, it will be February 18th from 10 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, and we are gearing the 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock primarily for very family-friendly, kid-oriented time for everyone to enjoy themselves. And these costumes, I'll have to give a little shout out to our friends up north. These costumes came from the Pied Piper Theater's Center for the Arts. They were actually sent as a donation for the event. Usually it does cost to have these things rented, and we actually have an Elsa costume that was handmade by one of their costumers, and this is the Olaf costume. And I'm working on getting some people we've got lots of other costumes, so there's going to be some princesses running around, and we're working on a Peter Pan and Tinkerbell right now that we'll hopefully have. And during the event, obviously, we've got the ice skating rink, which will be fantastic. It is a synthetic ice. We're hoping that as we continue to do this, we're hoping this will be an annual event. And as we do it, we'll have enough funds in the future to have a real ice skating rink. That would be really neat. And then the toboggan shoot, as I call it, we'll have that right as well. So we'll have princesses going around, a lot of those characters. We're going to do face painting. We are working on doing an ice fishing concept. I've contacted one of the local Boy Scout troops, and we're going to provide them all of the materials, and hopefully those young men and their fathers will be able to help us out with creating it. We'll obviously have them put their troop number all over it. We've also contacted the Girl Scouts and asked them if they wanted to participate, sell some cookies, get some of their organizations, getting some money flowing through them as well. We've gone to the local businesses. Rather than bringing in food from out of the area, Pensacola, Destin, things like that, the whole point, especially with the CRA, is to promote our downtown, promote the area in that redevelopment area. And so that's what we've done. We've gone to those businesses and asked them to be a part of it. And so, for example, Hub City Barbecue will be out there. We've asked the ice cream shop Buchanan's, who's fairly new. We've asked them to come out. We're trying to get them lined up. We've gone to a couple of the trailer over where Nathan has his trailer place. So we've talked to them as well, and there's a lot of interest in it. They love it. They love the idea. We're supporting the businesses, getting their name out, and 20% of the sales will go back into the CRA, okay? The rest of it they get to keep. And we're not going to bring in 100 different food vendors. We want them to make money. So we have a certain amount of people that we'll actually have out there to do that. But we want them to have a great day. We want them to run out of food. That's how much business they're going to have. And of course, it's going to be, we're hoping, just a wonderful time for the families. Give people something to do where they don't have to travel to Destin or to Fort Walton or to Pensacola. We really need to focus in on showing our families here you don't have to drive 40 minutes to have a good time, to do something positive and constructive with your family here. And that's what I'm really hoping we'll get a lot of feedback on. One thing that we are going to do, I don't think it's been mentioned, is we're going to have 2 very large maps constructed. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a nationwide map, okay? And then we're also going to have one of just Florida. And we're going to ask people to pin where they're from, just to get an idea of where people are coming from. And for example, my mother is actually from Manassas, Virginia. And she's, of course, going to come down and visit her grandchildren just because. But we've been planning a time when she would come to Florida. And, hey, we've got the Winter Festival. Booked her ticket already, ready to go. Okay. Because it's such a great event. Okay. So.
Does she live near one of those new airport cities that Allegiant is flying into here where they got those really cheap tickets?
No, that'd be nice, but no.
I know we've got, 11, I think they're up to 24 destinations now. You can fly out of VPS, Destin, Fort Walton, nonstop, direct to other places. You don't have to go through Atlanta to get to a lot of those places now.
She's going through Charlotte, I believe. So it's not too bad. So Northern Virginia to Charlotte to here. So it's doable.
Okay. So we're going to have an ice skating rink. And what's it going to cost for people to come out and ice skate?
It's absolutely free. That's the best part. The admission is free. The activities are free. You get to ice skate for free, toboggan shoot for free, face painting is free. The only cost is going to be in the food. And the hope is, if you charge people $10 entry per person or $15 and then charge them for rides and activities, then they're not going to spend the money on the food. We really want our local businesses to thrive from this. And we want people to try the food. We're trying to push restaurants into the downtown. We want more restaurants down there. We want more activity. Sometimes it's just getting people to try the food. So if we keep their money in their pockets for getting in and doing the face painting, now they can spend it on the food and really trying all that we have here.
Now then the evening is going to be more oriented to the adults, even with adult beverages only during a certain time slot of the evening.
Yes, sir, yes. So starting at 5 p.m. and it will end at 9:30, there will be sales of alcohol, and that will be beer and wine. And I really think it's a perfect mix of, we're giving the families the opportunity to not worry about, alcohol being around their children. And then at the same time, we're able to offer something that our younger crowd is asking for, our young families. And to give you a very specific example, I plan on being there, and I am going to run my children ragged until they can barely walk. And then they're going home, and my husband and I are coming back, and we're having a date night. We're going to enjoy the concert, let my husband have a drink if he wants to. And what's great is that this is an environment where if you don't want to drink, you absolutely don't have to. I won't be drinking, but my husband can have a drink, and that's great. And
you said concert. Tell us what that's going to be about.
Yes, so we have the Southern Rock Review coming in. There's members of Molly Hatchet Band and Blues Rhythm. I don't have all the band members in front of me, but it's going to be an actual concert. Real live performance, none of the lip syncing stuff, none of that. They're going to be up on a stage. You can bring a chair if you like to, so you can sit and watch, or obviously there's places there at Spanish Trail where you can hang out. But it's just going to be such a great time. I'm so excited for it.
Let's tell them the date again and the hours of the 2 parts of that day.
So February 18th. And from 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock is going to be our family-oriented children, probably primarily is what you'll see. And then from 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock will be the adults. Now, I would like to mention that the ice skating rink and the toboggan chute are still going to be open. from 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock. So you can have a great time. I don't think the face painters are going to be painting, you know, the older crowd, but, you know, maybe we'll get a few, who knows.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Okay, so that's all going to happen on February the 8th at the Spanish Trail Park, and hopefully you know where that is or can find it. It's there at the north end of town at the corner of Stillwell and Industrial Drive. It's where the circuses and the carnivals always go, and lots of other things are happening. Now, we're going to talk about another topic. One of the things you've been interested in, of course, you've been coming to Main Street meetings, CRA meetings, and so you had a discussion, you said here a while back, about people saying, well, what do people really want, and who are the customers who are even coming to downtown Crestview to shop in the stores in this historic district?
Well, and so this stemmed out of a question of, you know, what is it, you know, we've got FAMU now, so there's a young population there, and we do have a lot of military family in the area, and the young families, what are they asking for? What do they really want? And so one of the things I've done is I've actually gone into downtown. I've talked to several of the business owners, and one of the things that's been, not all the way across the board, there's always exceptions, but generally they're finding that the support to the local businesses downtown is higher from those who are transplants, military, people like me who, you know, I'm not from Crestview. Of course, my husband brought us through here through military, obviously. He's contracted. But they're finding that the locals, I guess, are so used to maybe not having many options downtown that they just automatically go somewhere else. They don't even stop into downtown anymore. And it's really the outsiders, if you will, that are frequenting the downtown. So what I decided to do, I had a good friend of mine, her name's Gianna Powers. She's a realtor with me, with my group. She is part of the Crestview military, let me get the exact, military spouses. Now, my husband is not active duty, so I can't legally be on the website. So I had her do a post for me asking very bluntly, what is it that you don't like? Why do you want to leave Crestview? Okay? Why are you not happy here? What is it that we're missing that we need to do? And in less than 12 hours, we had 175 responses. And that's pretty substantial. This is just a simple Facebook post, okay?
Now, this reaches families and spouses who are currently assigned here.
Currently
So
assigned.
they're a different population group from the group that's been here, gone somewhere else, and then maybe bought a house and then came back to stay here forever. Because a lot of our population, that we'll say the 50 and above, people who got there 20 years and or more, they came back here because they liked the climate, liked the quieter community thing, and the pricing of real estate. And you sell it, it's not as expensive up here as it is down, say, in Destin or near the water. Waterfront anywhere is more expensive. We all know that. That's natural. So anyway, so what kind of opinions or comments or things that you got from these spouses of folks who are serving us in the military? And I'm going to have to guess that includes Air Force and Army now that we have, and we've also got some Navy, and we even have, of course, our base has everything, including Coast Guard on it.
Right, absolutely. So basically, if you have a spouse that is active duty, you can be in this group, okay? Now, there's a few things that, you know, we have very little control over. I mentioned at one point to you, one was gas prices. And I agree with you. I still don't get it. I don't understand why it's so expensive. But that was one thing that they wanted to know about. Obviously, traffic. And I think everybody watching this and listening to this will say the same thing. Of course, traffic is an issue. But what are the things that we can really have an effect on? What can we actually do? What can I take to our city council leaders and to the rest of our county leaders and start talking about simpler fixes that we can do to keep our families here? So one of the things was retail. And specifically, they were very specific. The women mentioned that there's no retail there's very little retail for women to shop. Now, we can go to Walmart, we can go to Cato's, and that's about it. You know, if you want something nice to wear, you have no choice but to go out of the area. The other was men's retail. I remember being in a meeting and I listened to a gentleman say that he got his suit here in Crestview, and I wanted to go up to him and say, where in God's name did you find it? Because there's nowhere to buy a suit for a man.
How old was that suit?
Yeah, I know, right,
They
right.
had them in
Yeah.
store years ago.
And
Crestview was blessed with the first super Walmart store in Florida.
Yes. So we can go to Walmart and buy our suits.
Sure.
But the other thing was children. Now, what's interesting is there are actually a few very, very nice young children's stores. There's a place called Baby and Me on the downtown strip. Very cute. There's a couple very young children's stores on the downtown that are great. And if you haven't been to them, I highly recommend going. Even for grandparents, very cute handmade stuff. But once you hit out of a certain age group, there's really not that much available. And again, I've gone to Bell's, Beals, however people, the outlet, there's nothing there. Shoes, no shoes. We have to have a carnival twice a year. How bad is that? Because there's
You do
no
have shoes at Walmart, and you do have a Payless shoe store right not far from it.
Right. Those are the only two options.
Right.
So if anybody listening to this wants to become a millionaire, this is how you do it. You put a shoe store in, you put men's clothing store, women's clothing store, and a children's clothing store in. The other piece of this, so retail obviously was a big component. The other thing was activities for our children. There was actually very, very little positive feedback about Twin Hills Park. The concept of Twin Hills Park received some positive feedback, but what we heard a lot of negativity on was what bad condition it's in. That there's just, you've got the little splash pad, and that's good for some of your younger kids, but it's almost to the point where the older children, 10, 12 years old, have nowhere to go, that they take over that location, and now it's unsafe for the little kids. There's no indoor activities. Monkey Joe's, for example, or a trampoline kind of park, something like that, where there's places for people to participate inside. The other thing they asked for was interactive kids museums. We have people from all over the world coming into Crestview, and they've seen all kinds of things, the education that they've experienced, and they want museums. They want to take their kids to things like this. They also discussed a public pool. So right now, there is nowhere publicly to take your pool. Now, I think Fox Trail, Foxwell Country Club, yep. So I think one of the things that came out of this, and I'll finish, we've got additional family sit-down restaurants, okay, actual sit-down restaurants, and finer sit-down restaurants. There's tons of fast food, and it's always the same. Another Waffle House, another McDonald's. They want some of the nicer things. Ironically enough, after saying that, they also wanted a Chick-fil-A. But it's good, so I get that too. But one of the things that was interesting with this poll was that there's a lot of things that have happened that they don't know about. And I actually asked the city to start thinking outside the box. We can't leave it to just the hope that they're going to pick up a newspaper. Because if you're my generation or younger, you're not picking up a newspaper. Now, I'm an exception. I mentioned in the meeting that I was raised by old people, and that's the case. I know how to do needlepoint and all kinds of old quilting, you name it, I can do it. And I'm probably an exception to the rule. We've got to figure out a way to get the information out. I did speak with Brenda Smith over the CRA, and I mentioned to her, if there's a website I can send the information to people, say, go to this website, look at what we've accomplished. So some of the things that I responded to these ladies was, take Twin Hills Park. They have been awarded 2 $50,000 grants to improve Twin Hills Park. It's fantastic. Now, even if the money comes in today, I know Wayne Steele is good, but he's not that good. It's not going to happen in 24 hours. But, knowing that that money is there, the improvements are planned. The Bark Park, I have seen it all over the papers, and I commend April for all of the work that she's done. It's going to be fantastic. But we need to get it to the greater population. They're not receiving that information. The work that's being done to promote the downtown and the businesses and the growth, everything from even not downtown, the library. And I know people know where the library is, but do they really know all the services? How do we promote our city? Because right now, the general gist is they go to church, right? And they're going to do what? They're going to ask their elders, probably. They're going to ask the people who have been there longer than them, where do you go to do this? Well, from what I've pulled from the downtown, any of the elders are typically going to say, well, you can't find anything here, just go to Destin or Pensacola. So, and again, I'm making an assumption, but based on what I've gathered in my research, we need to do a better job of educating our crowd, and we need to draw back our elders. We really do. We need to get our Crestonian, Crestview people who were born and raised here to want to come back into the city. And it's going to take a lot more press. Things like this will help. We need to start utilizing tools. We need to use our churches. One of the things that I would actually like to mention is what our churches have done. And I think they've had to do it out of a lack of what we've had here in the city. So we have had huge expansions in our churches. If you look, we have coffee houses in churches. We have basketball courts in churches. They're filling a void.
And the church that has a pool.
Yeah, Central Baptist has a pool. They absolutely do, yes. My kids go to school there, right, to the Rock. And what's interesting is because of the lack of what we've been able to do here in Crestview, for one reason or another, our churches, I feel, have had to pull up the slack for that. And instead of doing their ministry and being out in the city and bringing more people in, they're having to take their funds and they're having to build the things that the city should be doing. And I'm not saying a church shouldn't have any of that stuff, but our city is lacking so much in some of these important community things that I feel that our churches have had to pull the string for that. They've had to tug the load. And I'm very appreciative for that, but I would like to see the city now take over what the churches have had to do, so our churches can now do some of the things that they really want to be doing.
Yeah. Well, we could spend several weeks of Z-Files discussing, as I have over the last 6 years with different people, where the revenue comes from to do all these wonderful things. Like we say, we'd love to have a 4-lane bypass all around that city. Just write the check, folks, and get your name named on it like they do on football stadiums and baseball stadiums. We all understand Highway 85 situation on that point. It's a state highway going through a town. It has grown, and because of the military installation, there's only one basic highway north-south and the little one out of Niceville to Mossy Head. And that's it to get out of the south end of the county. Or you got to go west and east and then go north again. Those who have lived here long enough realize that we live in an area of the country where they can't run gasoline pipelines unless they run them way up north part of Florida, and then they got to get by all the water bays and bayous all the way between here and where the oil comes from. So ours comes to our area by barge across the intracoastal. Some days if you're going down across Mid-Bay Bridge or you're down at Destin, you look out, you'll see those barges pushing these, big tugs pushing them. And there's a gas depot in Niceville down there at Boggy Bayou, one over in Freeport. And so then that gas has got to be hauled by truck up here. So all that, everything has a cost of getting it to where it goes. Right. And so that factors, so I've learned from talking to the people in the industry. But then in Crestview, like every town, is all challenged with how much money they have that they can get. We all know that, and from looking at real estate, there's a lot of property in Crestview City, within the city, that we could almost say is just about non-performing, but uses the services of fire and police and contributes very little bit. We've got a big chunk of places we've talked about before that don't even pay $100 a year into the city for their taxes on their property. For once they get to that, first of all, the value of the property and then their homestead exemptions, they're just not there. And we don't have, now Crestview is growing to some extent, but there are all kinds of factors into how to get the revenue finally to the cities, to the county, to the school board, to pay all the things that we all want. So there's going to have to be some creative thinking somewhere to find a way to make these things happen.
Well, and one thing to remember is that one of the things that seems to be a pattern is just increasing the millage rate. Now, as you mentioned, we have a lot of property that just don't there's not a lot of value to the property, we'll just say. I won't speak bad about the way people keep their property or things like that, but there's very little value for whatever reason. But 0 times 17, which is our millage rate,
No.
the total.
It's
Yeah.
less than 4 for the city.
Yeah, but for the total of Okaloosa.
Right,
Okay, so here in Crestview, it's 17, if you will, total, overall.
after the city.
17.
Well, that's including
If
school
you include
board,
all the school, yes,
board
yes,
and
yes.
county and city.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
But if the property value is worth 0, 17 times 0 is 0.
Right.
And doesn't you want to use
Right.
the city? We can use the city. 6. It can be 5. It can be 4. Let's make the city millage rate 17. Quote me on it. But
Yeah.
17 times 0 is still 0. The problem is we keep increasing the millage rate. We need to address the 0 property dollar. The value of the property is still worth 0. We need to change the values of the properties. That people need to start keeping up their properties. They need to start taking care of them. And, people like me who are paying I'm paying very high taxes. You're going to price us out is what's going to happen, because they're also turning around and one of the comments was, what am I getting for my taxes? So when we have a large chunk of properties in the city that basically have no value to them, 0 times whatever is still 0. We've got to work on that 0. It's got to start producing 1, 2. It's got to start being worth something.
And then all the services that any city provides, it's got to be paid for somehow.
Absolutely.
And it's where it is. And we can take on more. But anyway, on a good note, we'll point out that February the 8th, you can go February 18th. February 18th, you can go ice skating in Crestview. And there's going to be a thing that's going to be kind of like a toboggan ride coming down a hill. And that's all going to be free for the adults and the kids, and they're going to have the ice skates there for you. So you'll have to rotate your time, getting your share of the time, and on into the evening, the ice skating will be available. There'll be a concert in the evening with several different groups performing, and adult beverages after 5:30, and there'll be food, and hopefully they'll have a plan enough of the food stuff to have some for us to get supper time down there as well.
Yes.
So it'll be a great event to do, and in the meantime, we'll also, if you watched or heard the Z-Files last week, when I had the gentleman on here who's going to be doing one of these, quote, scientific surveys, and the Mason-Dixon Company has very well got credentials of doing surveys for everything from politicians to communities, and this one has been a gift to the city of Crestview. A fine gentleman named Quinn Studer and his folks from over in Pensacola said they wanted to help spark something over here, and you're kind of responsible for getting him to come over here with his wife, Rishi, to even see what Crestview could have.
No, it's really exciting, and one of the things I tell a lot of young families here is this is the wrong time to leave Crestview. There is so much going on, and the work that Quint Studer is doing, the work that Brenda Smith is doing, the city council, and I would like to say to the city council, this city council has done a wonderful job. They've got a long road ahead of them. I know it's been a rough year, just even this past year they've done a lot, but this is what we need. This is the change that we need, and it's fantastic. The progress that Crestview is trying to make is fantastic. This is the wrong time for people to leave Crestview, and I think the changes that are going to happen are going to be wonderful.
And Crestview really isn't a small town anymore. Actually, the city population inside city limits is around 23,000, give or take change. But 5 miles from where we are sitting right now here at our WAAZ WJSB studios, in a 5-mile circle. Now that circle just crosses the traffic light at P.J. Adams. It doesn't include everything even south of P.J.
Okay. Yeah.
And in that 5-mile circle, there are 41,000 people. Now you take 10 miles from here. Now that'll get you out to Baker and get you out to Dorcas, just down about to Duke. And there's not a lot of people living at the Army base out there. Those are the young single guys that are out there, and they're coming and going all the time anyway. But within that 10-mile circle, there's 54,000 people. Now this was my 2-year-ago report. I'm sure it's up. And really within 15 miles of here, now that will get you, in fact, the 25-mile circle just does get you to the bridge going into Destin.
Right.
And in that 25 miles from here, there's almost 200,000 people.
That's amazing.
So, I mean, there's people out there, and people say, well, there's too much going on for people to do. Well, wait a minute. Even within 10 miles of here, all 41,000 people aren't at the football game or the basketball game, and they won't all 41,000 show up for the ice day either.
Right.
If we get a couple of thousand, it'll be a good day. If we get 10,000, it'll be fantastic.
Yeah, we're hoping for more. And there's a Facebook page that you can go to, and you'll see it. It's called the Okaloosa Gas Jack Frost Winterfest. So you can go onto Facebook, and there's about 1,000 people that have said they're going, or they're interested.
Okay.
Now, with that, so for example, I checked that I was going. Well, it doesn't say that I'm bringing 5 people. I get 1 vote for my check. I have another gentleman that I told who's going to bring his daughter and their 8 children. They've got adopted children. So there's going to be 10 people coming with that 1 check. So we're hoping to bring in at least 10,000 people. I mean, really, we are. So, and I would encourage people to go onto that Facebook page and share it, and obviously say whether or not you're going to attend, because one of the things that's critical is we have to tell our vendors a rough estimate so we don't run out of food. And then, of course, we also don't want to prepare food for 15,000 people and only 3,000 show up. So there is an important need to, have some idea of how many people will be there.
Well, good. Well, again, you go to the Facebook page, and for those watching this on our YouTube and Z-Files channel and on my Cal Zathmar Facebook page, you can see the information again and where to go and when it is. So hopefully you're going to plan on being in Crestview at Spanish Trail Park on February 18th, and keep tuned, because we'll keep talking about all these things that are going on in Crestview and North Okaloosa County and in the Panhandle as well that make you want to live here in place of living in a place where you have to shovel snow once in a while. 'Cause I will never do that again.